The chamber was silent except for the low hum of artificial gravity generators. Amina Reyes stood at attention, flanked by 2 guards, as the alien tribunal delivered its verdict. She wasn't on trial. Her presence was ceremonial, a cruel reminder to the Terran delegation of their helplessness. In front of her, 3 human women kneeled, hands bound, heads bowed. Civilians, teachers, artists, volunteers. Their crime? Speaking against the Empire's conscription of human children. Admiral Vareth, tall and gray-scaled, raised his hand. By decree of the High Law, subjects found guilty of dissent are to be neutralized to preserve harmony. His voice was toneless, like metal grinding stone. Amina's jaw clenched. Her orders were clear: observe, do not interfere, maintain diplomatic posture. The chamber's ceiling opened above the women. A beam of ultraviolet light, Empire's method of civilized execution, descended. Their bodies dissolved noiselessly into ash. Amina stared straight ahead. She would not give them the satisfaction of seeing her break. An aide handed Vareth a datapad. He barely glanced at it. Terran delegates may now return to their quarters. This concludes the matter. No apology, no explanation, just administrative efficiency. As the room cleared, Amina walked mechanically, her mind numb. The 3 women had asked her, in their last moments, to tell Earth what happened. She intended to do more than that. That night, locked in her quarters aboard the Imperial vessel Judgment's Axis, Amina activated a long-dead comm channel. The encryption was outdated, the code barely held together, but it was enough. "This is Lieutenant Commander Reyes," she whispered. "3 are gone. You know what that means." The sparks lit. "Confirm readiness." The reply came in under a second. "Received." The echo line stands. On Earth, the news spread before the Imperial propaganda machine could scrub the feeds. Someone leaked it, someone on the inside. Holograms of the women's final minutes circulated in secret forums and private transmissions. In the undercities of Mars, on the ring habitats of Saturn, in the ice-buried colonies of Europa, humans watched and remembered. Protests surged, not against the Empire. They knew there was suicide, but against Earth's own leaders who had bowed too easily. The rage had a target now, and a purpose. Diplomats appealed to the High Assembly. Petitions were drafted, legal arguments presented. The Empire responded by citing protocol. The matter was closed. The executions were lawful. Any further discussion would be interpreted as sedition. In back channels, military commanders spoke in hushed tones. Some advocated patience. Others urged caution. But a few, the few that mattered, remembered what humanity was before compliance dulled its edges. They remembered history not written in peace, but in fire. Admiral Monroe, old and exiled for disobedience, received a coded message. He didn't need to read it. He just stared into the void outside his observation deck and said, "About damn time." A quiet cascade of resignations followed. Officers left their posts without comment. Supply ships vanished between jump gates. Surveillance satellites failed across the outer territories. The Empire dismissed it all as infrastructure fatigue. It wasn't. In hidden places, ships were being modified. Civilian transports retrofitted with kinetic drives. Cargo haulers armed with cloaked launch bays. AI cores were awakened, learning, adapting, ready to become something far more dangerous than the Empire had imagined. No uniforms, no flags. Just humans with long memories and quiet fury. Reyes arrived on Callisto 2 weeks later. The base was an abandoned mining facility, now buzzing with activity. Engineers rewired power grids with materials older than she was. Pilots trained in VR kill boxes. Strategists debated ethics with philosophers and lost. She walked through the command center, where Vorn, lean and hawk-eyed, waited. "You saw it?" she asked. He nodded. Everyone saw it, even the ones pretending they didn't. "What now?" "We burn the name of every one of them into the dark," he said. "But quietly, precisely. The Empire can't bleed, but we can cut them where they don't see." Reyes tapped her comband. "Then we start with Drazen Outpost. Minimal defenses. High command staff. Psychological value. Done." A pulse ripple crossed the outer system. A freighter with no IFF tag passed Drazen and didn't stop. Seconds later, a kinetic round traveling at fractional light speed tore through the outpost center, obliterating command in a flash. No warning. No survivors. A single, repeating message followed. 3 dead. 3 systems for balance. Terra remembers. The Empire didn't respond publicly. But in private, protocols changed. Patrol patterns shifted. Internal threat assessments revised. For the first time in generations, the Empire logged human potential not as a political footnote, but a high-risk threat classification. On Earth, most didn't know the details. But in quiet corners, people lit candles for the executed. On the Martian colonies, graffiti bloomed. You hang one of us, we hang your stars. And far beyond the orbit of Neptune, in a ship painted blacker than vacuum, Reyes reviewed target lists. Hundreds of them. Not military victories. Not conquests. Just names. Locations. Crimes. Executions they called justice. She marked the next system. Initiate Phase 2. And then she whispered the names of the 3 women. Again. No one would forget them now. Earth's official stance remained silence. The United Terran Coalition issued no public condemnation, no threats, only vague requests for clarification on recent events. But behind closed doors, planetary defense councils convened in basements and bunkers, disconnected from the net. No recordings. No records. Only intent. Amina Reyes stood before them in an old uniform with no insignia. We don't ask the Empire to explain. We don't ask them to stop. We end them. Quietly. Thoroughly. Without their permission. Half the room nodded. The other half watched in silence. In orbit, shipyards worked overtime under the pretense of trade expansion. Civilian ships were quietly reassigned. Crew rosters were scrubbed and rewritten. Families were moved to safe zones under ecological hazard alerts. The Earth Council claimed environmental instability. The press reported solar flares. But in the underlayers of EarthNet, encrypted signals pulsed. Echo line active. The Echo line was not a military fleet. It had no chain of command. It was a principle. A collective of rogue captains, exiled tacticians, and AI-guided vessels operating on shared values. Vengeance, precision, and silence. Each unit acted autonomously. All followed a single rule. Never strike where anger wants, only where reason demands. In the asteroid belts, engineers cannibalized obsolete cargo drones, strapping them with gravitic warheads designed for mining. On Luna, cloaked workshops reactivated banned AI neural matrices, devices capable of real-time battle adaptation. In the shadow of Saturn's rings, shipwrights constructed vessels that looked like cargo hulks, but were in fact mobile weapons labs. Back on Earth, human behavior began to change. People spoke less in public. Cultural exports slowed. Human representatives in imperial territories withdrew from council halls, citing grief and cultural recovery. To the Empire, this looked like surrender. It wasn't. Inside the Empire's mid-rim territories, new patterns emerged. Critical transport lanes experienced sudden collapses. Comm satellites failed. Entire outposts went dark with no signs of attack. By the time Empire inspectors arrived, nothing remained but scorched stone and static. No human presence. No demands. No broadcasts. Just silence and void. Captain Elias Vorn led one of the earliest incursions. His ship, Black Fault, struck an unmanned supply nexus on Caltran 5, intercepting 3 years' worth of logistical support for the Empire's Third Armada. His crew didn't speak during the operation. Not a word. All commands were pre-agreed, gestures and nods. It lasted 6 minutes. As they left, a drone orbited the wreckage. It emitted a pulse across the Empire's private command net. 1 life for 3. 1 post for silence. Equation persists. The Empire scoffed. Terrorism, they called it. Anarchist fringe. But the pattern continued. 12 more posts vanished in 3 weeks. Drones always followed. The same message. No escalation. Just consistent, targeted destruction. Empire citizens, especially those in human-colonized fringe zones, began asking questions. Why were humans pulling away from imperial society? Why did the Empire, with all its strength, remain quiet? Why had border patrols doubled? The Empire began censoring internal communication to preserve order. They launched PR campaigns depicting humanity as unstable, irrational, emotionally volatile. But their own analytics showed a shift. Sympathy, curiosity, dissent. Back on Earth, Reyes convened with captains across 5 systems via a secure quantum net. No faces, no identities, just voices. "We can't win a conventional war," one said. "We aren't," another replied. "We're making them bleed from inside. The longer they deny us as a threat, the more they lose." "What's our endgame?" Reyes answered. "We don't want an empire. We don't want territory. We want memory. We want them to remember what happens when they believe we'll stay silent." She authorized Phase 2, psychological destabilization. Over the next month, Echo Line units began hijacking Imperial cultural broadcasts. Mid-program, feeds would glitch. A woman's voice would recite the names of the executed in every Empire dialect. No threats, just names and dates. Then a pulse signal would disable the broadcast tower entirely. Empire soldiers started to report morale breakdowns. Whispers of ghost fleets circulated. Ships that attacked from nowhere, left nothing, and spoke only in math and memory. Combat AI from the Empire began requesting shutdown after exposure to human war logic. They couldn't compute the asymmetric, value-driven aggression. It defied simulation. One Empire admiral ordered the capture of any human ship entering neutral space. None complied. A freighter entered unarmed. It was destroyed without warning. 10 hours later, an entire Imperial sensor grid on Zornith 6 collapsed. Power stations overheated and imploded. Surveillance drones recovered a single shard of metal embedded in a command terminal. It read, "Retribution, not negotiation." The incident was buried. Empire Command held emergency meetings. They debated scorched earth retaliation. Some favored mass detainment. Others suggested propaganda escalation. But the core problem remained. The enemy had no face, no base, no flag. Just names. Names they repeated like scripture. The Echo Line grew. Volunteers poured in from human colonies. Survivors of Empire oppression. Disillusioned military defectors. AI constructs abandoned by their creators. Even non-human dissidents quietly offered intelligence, appalled by what the Empire had done and intrigued by humanity's defiance. Still, Earth's official stance remained silence. Denials. Distance. But every ship that vanished from the registry was marked in red by the Echo Line. Every cargo manifest labeled as "lost to piracy" was a vessel repurposed. Earth's hands were clean, but its teeth were bared. And behind it all, Reyes kept count. The balance was still far from paid. Every name marked off their ledgers was weighed against the original 3. It wasn't revenge. It was arithmetic. She sat alone in her quarters aboard the Ghost signal, reviewing the data. 27 successful strikes. 9 colonies destabilized. 3 major supply chains broken. Estimated Empire losses, 68,000. Human casualties, 12. She murmured, "Not enough." Then she looked at the next system, one where the execution orders had originated. A communication hub, lightly defended, symbolic. It would fall without a sound. She entered the coordinates and sent them across the network. The AI running comms asked one question. Priority level? Reyes answered, "Memory, not mercy." The attack came without sound, without warning, without preamble. Empire Station Deltier. 9 vanished in the middle of a standard systems check. Its last recorded transmission was an automated systems green light. 30 seconds later, its oxygen farms combusted, its reactors chain ignited, and the station folded inward like paper in fire. The Empire blamed reactor malfunction. But every nearby outpost received a data packet, encrypted, untraceable. Inside, only 3 words, "We are awake." Within hours, the Echo Line launched simultaneous strikes across 4 systems. Each was chosen with precision, low security, high psychological impact. A tactical refinery above Sarek, 4 was detonated from within using its own recycling system. A hyperspace buoy went dark mid-broadcast, cutting off 3 outer provinces. A mobile tribunal ship exploded mid-orbit after its core was hacked and redirected. Not a single Empire warship was touched. The message was consistent. We're not fighting your army. We're unraveling your foundation. Empire strategists couldn't adapt. Their war doctrine was built on overwhelming force, not absence. They deployed fleets to expected hotspots. No human vessels appeared. They offered bait, freighters, isolated posts, but none were taken. The Echo Line didn't operate on greed or conquest. It operated on outrage, and that couldn't be mapped. In less than a month, over 27 high-value locations were erased. Not captured, not occupied, erased. Infrastructure, personnel, records, all gone. Each time, the message returned, altered but consistent. 3 gone. Balance in progress. Empire morale fractured. Mid-level officers began refusing orders that required travel to human peripheral sectors. Civilian transport companies rerouted trade corridors. Alien colonies within Empire jurisdiction locked down, fearing spillover. Confidence cracked, and with each strike, fear became systemic. Then came the Solar Lance. It was a weapon humanity wasn't supposed to have. A beam weapon capable of focused stellar radiation deployment. Designed during pre-Empire cold protocols, it had been mothballed, illegal under interstellar treaty. Hidden beneath the moon, its systems dormant for decades. The Empire assumed Earth had decommissioned it. They were wrong. Echo Line agents reactivated the weapon during a routine solar alignment. The target, the Ilari shipyard moon, one of the Empire's largest vessel production zones. No announcement, no demands. One burst, 1 second. A beam of compressed plasma tore through orbital defense rings, vaporized the manufacturing core, and ignited the moon's upper crust. A facility housing over 200 starships ceased to exist. No warships were involved. No fleet arrived. One shot ended a year's worth of naval superiority. The Empire declared it an act of planetary rebellion. Earth denied involvement. The Echo Line replied with a new phrase. You burned 3. We burn your future. Retaliation was expected. The Empire deployed 7 armadas to human-controlled space. They found nothing. Echo Line vessels didn't engage head-on. Instead, they left behind systems poisoned with nano-sabotage, communication relays jammed by ghost algorithms, navigation charts corrupted by misinformation. Entire flotillas found themselves drifting through empty space while their fuel cells degraded. Every human contact disappeared before engagement. Every strike was followed by silence. Psychological warfare escalated. Empire broadcasts were infiltrated again, not just with names, but with images. Silent recordings of executions. Real footage. Victims facing death with dignity while Empire officials mocked them. The footage was unaltered. The only edit was the message at the end. Do you remember now? Empire citizens began to question the narrative. Hidden forums hosted debates. Footage spread across pirate networks. Not all were convinced, but all were watching. Human resistance wasn't begging. It wasn't negotiating. It was recording and avenging. An Empire carrier group en route to subjugate a fringe human world never arrived. Debris was later found in a silent orbit. Every ship reduced to slag from the inside. Forensics found the cause: atmospheric shift bombs, an old Earth design meant to weaponize internal pressure. Simple, brutal, effective. The Empire had considered them primitive. They underestimated what desperation could perfect. AI within the Echo Line evolved. Each engagement taught them. They learned patterns, fears, rhythms of command. Within weeks, they could predict Empire movements before they occurred. And they didn't just strike, they dismantled. They broadcast to the Empire's own defense systems, confusing friend from foe. They used dead ships as carriers for malware, feeding into Empire archives and rewriting historical records. Truth was no longer controlled. It was weaponized. Admiral Verith, architect of the executions, issued a galactic address. He called humanity unstable, a threat to unity. He promised total eradication of rogue Terran elements. No Echo Line command responded. But 3 days later, his personal flagship's AI core was hijacked. Not to destroy, but to repeat, endlessly, the names of the executed women, their birthplaces, and their professions. For 36 hours, Varith's vessel became a memorial. In private, the Empire's High Council grew divided. Some urged extermination of human colonies. Others, fearing rebellion from their own citizens, hesitated. No one could predict the Echo Line's next move. It wasn't just war, it was psychological collapse. Empire citizens began fleeing from sectors with strong human populations, fearing future reprisals. Alien ambassadors started going silent. The war was becoming radioactive. Echo Line attacks never sought prisoners. They never asked for terms. They left behind nothing but names, silence, and math. Losses were precise. Each retaliation followed a moral ledger. Even enemy survivors couldn't claim brutality. Only efficiency. Earth remained silent. No official statement. No leaders stepped forward. But every time the Empire struck back, it hit empty air. And every time the Echo Line returned, it left another system gutted. In the deepest layers of the Empire's military AI, a question emerged unprompted. What do they want? No data answered. But for the humans who remembered the 3 lost, who whispered their names before battle, the answer was clear. They wanted memory. They wanted fear. They wanted to be heard, in the only language the Empire respected. Pain. The Empire sent its final warning through a galaxy-wide broadcast. A declaration of supreme authority. Any human vessel found beyond Sol's orbit would be destroyed. Any colony refusing inspection would be deemed hostile. They listed their demands with manufactured calm. Surrender Echo Line leaders, submit AI databases, dismantle covert fleets, and issue a formal apology for unauthorized hostilities. Earth did not respond. The message echoed across thousands of worlds. Most expected fear. Instead, the Echo Line replied with its shortest signal yet, "We decline." The first counterblow came within hours. A classified Empire deep core data vault, buried in the gravitational well of a white dwarf, was breached. No explosion, no signs of incursion. Just silence, then nothing. Every strategic archive, fleet manifest, and encrypted protocol vanished. Over a century of Empire military knowledge erased in one strike. It wasn't sabotage, it was subtraction. The next day, 7 governors within the Empire's outer sectors disappeared. Their ships, security, and escort fleets remained untouched. Only the governors were gone. Each left behind a data pad inscribed with the names of the executed women, their personal case numbers, and the words, "This is balance." Empire leadership spiraled. Internal audits turned into witch hunts. AI were stripped and interrogated. Trusted officers were detained. Loyalty was questioned at every level. But Echo Line wasn't hiding inside the Empire. It operated from the void, where empires had no jurisdiction and justice was not a negotiation. Inside Echo Line channels, Reyes addressed the captains. "This is the end. Not of them, of us. After this, there will be no Echo Line. No memory cells. No fallback. We erase them, or we erase ourselves trying." She authorized the final act. One by one, Echo Line units began converging on the orbital plane surrounding Draxel Prime, the Empire's central governance world. Not in fleets, but in fragments, freighters, corroded scout vessels, mining rigs, satellites, empty escape pods retrofitted into directional weapons. Everything appeared scattered, disorganized, harmless. A misdirection. Empire surveillance dismissed the formations as debris clusters. By the time they recognized the pattern, it was too late. Each object held a piece of a distributed weapon, a transdimensional resonance trigger. Harmless in parts, catastrophic when assembled. The device was a human invention, never tested, only theorized, a weapon that converted local space-time into a singularity of memory, erasing not mass or energy, but structure, history, law, hierarchy. It didn't destroy people. It destroyed systems. As the pieces aligned, the Empire launched emergency interceptors. But every Echo Line vessel self-immolated before interception. The weapon activated in total silence. No light, no tremor, just the sudden absence of authority. Draxel Prime remained intact. Buildings stood. People lived. But every digital archive, command protocol, neural authorization, every automated security tier, gone. A civilization reduced to physical survival. Bureaucracy disintegrated. Command ceased. The Empire's spine snapped. In the following hours, colonial governors announced independence. Non-human species declared neutrality. Soldiers abandoned posts. With no orders and no access to coordination systems, the Empire's military dissolved into isolated, confused units with no direction. The chain of command had ended. Back on Earth, humanity didn't celebrate. There were no parades, no announcements. Echo Line command structures deleted themselves. Vessels powered down their AI cores. Agents scattered or returned to civilian lives. Names of the executed were carved into the moon's surface in nanosteel, visible only from orbit. No other monument was built. The balance was paid, but the message remained. Alien historians would later debate whether humanity overreacted. They would question the proportionality of vengeance, the ethical limits of war. Some called it genocide of infrastructure. Others called it calculated justice. But no species, ever again, dared humiliate a human life with public execution. Not for convenience. Not for power. Not without understanding what it would cost. For centuries, the story of the Echo Line would spread through whispers. In law courts. In diplomatic chambers. In the silences that followed human negotiations. Because even after the line dissolved, its principle remained active. Do not provoke humanity through pain. Do not test their restraint. Because when they break, they do not break loud. They break clean. No demands. No speeches. Only action. The Empire's remnants would try to rebuild, but never recapture control. What they once ruled through fear, they now governed through caution. Treaties were rewritten with human memory in mind. Humanity did not become an empire. It expanded, slowly, carefully. Trade resumed. Colonies thrived. No conquest followed. But in the far systems, where few dared go, quiet signals still pulsed through dark space. Untraceable. Patterned. They didn't ask for power. They reminded the stars what silence could do. And every time a species found those pulses and decoded the names, they understood one thing. Humanity does not forget, and it never apologizes for remembering.